Greece, the foundation of modern Western civilization, is garnering the attention of the world once again. Not for its marvelous islands, beaches, or great food, but because of the severe economic situation that affects the future of the whole European Union. Despite the difficulties the country is facing, one industry is still doing well. Tourism generates around 20% of total GDP, as millions of people continue to visit Greece to enjoy its beauty regardless of economic instability. Tourism is one of the major income sources for the country. However, is it going to continue? And more importantly, can tourism be a sustainable source of growth for Greece by 2025? We've come up with two divergent yet plausible scenarios of the future and the strategic options available to travel and tourism associations in the country given these alternative views of an uncertain future. Ongoing protests, increasing unemployment and unrest, and financial difficulties. Greece has been in a crisis for a long time, and austerity measures have not had any impact on the situation. In 2012, in order to have some economic flexibility, Greece decides to take a painful medicine, says goodbye to the euro, and welcomes back its old currency. Though global markets were ready for such a call, the decision brings as many difficulties as opportunities. Devaluing the Greek currency makes the country more competitive in terms of exchange rates. However, the government faces difficulties in public spending. To generate additional revenues, the government decides to increase taxes. Two of these taxes are tourism and airport. These new taxes and the difficulties that arise from converting the drachma result in a new round of public protests. This public outcry puts tremendous pressure on the government, and the coalition breaks down. This forces another round of election, which results in another coalition. During this upheaval, Greece's tourism industry takes many hits. The tax increases affect tourists directly because the government has imposed high taxes on hotels and other hospitality services, and has also increased airport taxes. Furthermore, limited government resources mean that the tourism industry receives very little economic support from Greece's tourism sector, and it starts to plummet down and lose the brilliance it once had. In Europe, Greece's exit from the Eurozone creates a domino effect, with Spain and Italy also starting to consider returning to their pre-Euro currencies. Conflicts in the Arab world continue to increase, growth in the Chinese economy slows down, and overall the world economy is failing to flourish. The situation stays negative until 2018. As international tourists continue to lose interest in Greece and the destination's market share continues to decline, the government finally puts in some plans to help the struggling industry. The government, however, refuses to lower taxes on tourists and for airports. This limits the availability of cheap flights to Greece, and overall it makes Greece an expensive destination for tourists. In the struggling global economy, few people are willing to spend extra on their vacations. Furthermore, because the Greek government's limited revenues and huge debts, there is little hope of investment in infrastructure until 2021. This means that Greece is a high-priced tourist destination, but because of the poor infrastructure, it is also a destination of poor quality. With limited resources and huge debt obligations, Greece can spend very little on tourism. By 2020, it decides to take action to boost its popularity in the tourism market. However, because funds for marketing are limited, Greece can only promote the summer season and only to a limited number of guests. Competitive exchange rate makes Greece an attractive destination for tourists looking for budget-friendly vacation options. Greece's tourism department can reach these customers through cheaper marketing channels. Unfortunately, because of the continued poor infrastructure and lack of monument upkeep, the overall experience for travelers is quite low. This results in lower repeat visits from tourists and a poorer reputation in the industry. This poor image plus the slow economic situation around the world means very few tourists for Greece. The country that once drew amazement and wonder from potential travelers now garners very little interest. By 2025, Greece's economy fails to revive and now has one less industry to count on for growth. To guide the country through this challenging time, Greece decides to stay in the European Union and commits itself to economic growth by leveraging one of its competitive advantages, tourism. The Greek government invests in helping revitalize the tourism sector and supports the industry as part of a larger strategy to turn the troubled economy around. To encourage tourists from all over the world, Greece changes its visa requirements so that visitors can stay in the country for a short period of time without any paperwork. In addition, the Ministry of Culture and Tourism launches a campaign to grow love for Greek culture. They also begin creating awareness to highlight the country as an off-season destination with current EU tourists. Through concerted efforts with small successes, Greece reduces political and economic turmoil. This increased stability encourages foreign tourists to return to the country and gives the government more freedom to continue their commitment to tourism as they temporarily reduce tourist taxes. They aggressively promote this reduction in taxes, and the Ministry of Culture and Tourism begins targeting a broader tourist market, including the luxury segment, which has been missing from the Greek tourism portfolio for decades. With tourism revenue on the rise, the government begins infrastructure projects throughout the entire country, linking the popular tourist destinations with the rural parts of the country, and continues monument upkeep. As the global economy begins emerging from the economic slump, Greece reduces airport taxes charged to airlines in order to encourage low-cost carriers to increase routes to and within the country. This increases the availability of cheap flights and links Greece to major cities throughout Eastern and Western Europe. Secondary airports spring up throughout the country, which further enables low-cost carrier service. Furthermore, Greece begins improving and building roads that link the country to its neighbors to encourage road travel between Greece and the rest of Europe. With these changes, Greece sees a rise in repeat tourists who come to the country seeking new and exciting experiences and begin exploring the rural areas now easily accessible by the new roads and low-cost flights. The Ministry of Culture and Tourism leverages the stability of repeat tourists by partnering with neighboring tourist destinations like Croatia and Turkey, which are prospering economically and whose citizens increasingly seek travel opportunities. These efforts create regional tourists, and Greece attracts many who would normally skip the country in search of other more exotic locales. With the availability of cheap flights, as well as greater freedom to drive, the cost of tourism in Greece falls, which further increases the number of visitors to the country. The Greek government's revenues from tourism increases as Greece becomes one of the top travel destinations in the world. By 2025, tourists visit the country year-round, and with both luxury and budget-conscious travelers, Greece enjoys a diversified traveler who enjoys Greek culture and the natural abundance of the country. Faced with this future, travel and tourism associations can support and profit from the expansion of year-round and luxury tourists by creating off-season special deals and unique experiences. They may need to look outside the country to find a labor force able to work year-round, and may consider expanding the regional tourist partnerships with Croatia and Turkey to include work permits for the tourism industry. Travel and tourism associations can use their position within the Greek economic recovery strategy to encourage the building of petrol stations along the new roads, which would be dotted with inexpensive motor hotels and services for caravans, perhaps with chains of motor hotels or hospitality partnerships to encourage a similar level of service along the routes. And the travel and tourism associations can support rural tourism in Greece by building eco-tourist destinations, adventure tourist attractions, and expanding woofing. With an improved global economy and a strong commitment from the Greek government, travel and tourism associations will be critical to revitalizing Greece's tourism industry so that by 2025, Greece has a stronger, more stable economy and has emerged as one of the top travel destinations in the world.